Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mountain West Insider Podcast on the field of 68. My name is Rob Dauster, and I have an esteemed panel today to break down the Mountain West tournament. We have Geoff Grammer, who knows the Mountain West and the New Mexico Lobos better than anybody. We have BJ Rains from Bronco Nation News to help us talk through whether or not the Broncos are going to end up in the NCAA tournament this year. That's one of the biggest storylines we have here in the Mountain West tournament this year. And of course, we are stuck with the kitchen man, Jeff Goodman, broadcasting from his oven. My favorite part about this, guys, this is the fifth thing that I've recorded with Goodman today, and every single time there's been a different angle of like what I'm looking at in the kitchen.
But I have cleared last week when we first got here. My wife did some shopping, and the counter was full of food. So they made fun of me for that. So I've at least cleared it off. So there's just not many good lighting options here. I'm renting the place, and yeah, I'm not going to be here a whole lot anyway this month. So
Let's not blame it on the lighting.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you trying to say, Grammer? What are you trying to say? Me?
It's all you.
Trying to say I have a face for radio? I've heard that a few times before.
Mm-hmm. That is actually exactly what he's saying. Goodman. All right, let's get this thing rolling. BJ, I want to go to you first because I think to me the single biggest storyline out of the Mountain West tournament, beyond like New Mexico's trying to win it, Richard Petit, all this other stuff is Boise State a tournament team? They are the team that feels like they are right on the cut line, whatever it is, whether the last one in or the first one out, like they are that team. If somebody ends up being a bid thief, like I just watched Pepperdine winning the quarterfinals of the WCC tournament. If Pepperdine wins two more in Vegas this week, Boise State might be the team that ends up getting their bubble burst.
Pepperdine's not winning two more. We don't have to worry about that. Okay?
Hey, you never know. Pepperdine, man, the waves. BJ, Boise State, what do you think they have to do to be able to get themselves an at-large bid to the dance?
Oh, I think they got to get to the championship game of the conference tournament, really. I mean, because they're, already out on most people's list, and they still have another loss coming if they're going to be an at-large team. So, yeah, I think that they've got it sets up nicely for them. I mean, they have two quad one opportunities here with San Diego State and then with New Mexico. So, I mean, they're going to have a chance. San Diego State's not a great matchup for them. They've lost to them twice, but if Magoon Guath doesn't play, that's a different story. I think I think San Diego State had 10 blocks against them last time they played. So if Guath doesn't play, they certainly have a chance in that one. They beat New Mexico at home, but obviously got killed by them on the road. So who knows what would happen if they played in the semifinals. But I mean, they have the Clemson win, which was really nice. They have the St. Mary's win. Obviously, they've beaten two other teams in Utah State and New Mexico that are going to be in the tournament. But I mean, that Colorado State game, it was all right there for them at home on senior night and just couldn't get it done. But that wasn't the game that kept them out. It was losing to Boston College down in the Cayman Islands. It was losing to Washington State earlier this year on a neutral. I mean, they've had some bad losses earlier in the season that are probably hurting them more than last night's game was. They had a Utah State, game on the road, a 4-point play for Ian Martinez where they could have won. They should have won in Fort Collins, had a late 3-pointer too. So they've had some close games go against them, but this is the situation they're in. And you look at, I think 45 in the net this morning and then obviously some other, I think 42 at Torvik, 49 at Ken Palm or something. So the metrics just aren't quite there. I think they've got to win for sure one, but probably two to even be in consideration. But I think their mindset probably is go down there and try to win the tournament. And if you look at their history in this tournament, it hasn't been great. They've not played well in the Mountain West tournament. So maybe this is the year that can change. I don't know.
Yeah, Grammer, is that where you're at with Boise State and kind of bigger picture? We've been pushing here 5 Mid Mountain West, right? I think that there are 5 tournament caliber teams in this conference, but I think the more likely outcome is somewhere between 3 or 4 that actually hear their names called on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 4-5 game between San Diego State and Boise State, as crazy as it sounds, if San Diego State loses, they have a better chance, certainly a better chance of staying in the field because they have the Houston win. And as good as the Clemson win is, that there's not a better win than that Houston win in the Mountain West right now. And San Diego State's name alone probably kind of helps it a little bit too. But man, that's going to be a hell of a game to watch two teams that are very good teams. Obviously, you got San Diego State in their history. You got Boise State, who's got a squad. They got Tyson Dagenhart,
They got Cardenas, and they were picked to win this league this year, right? And those two teams might be playing for the NCAA tournament on a Thursday evening in the Mountain West tournament. So that to me is probably the game of the whole tournament. I think you get that win and you feel a little bit better about things. I think BJ's probably right that Boise probably does need to get to the championship just to feel really comfortable. But as far as momentum goes, Colorado State's looking really good. Utah
Mhm.
State's not looking good, but they're probably comfortably in. So I'd say of all the storylines in this entire tournament, that 4 or 5 game's about right at the top of the list.
Yeah, Goodman. It feels like Colorado State's kind of the team of destiny in this one, right? Like they've been playing great of late. They have the talent. I think you can make the argument that they have the best NBA prospect. Maybe that might be a crazy thing to say, but I think Dominic Clifford has a chance to, end up being a guy that plays in the NBA for a couple of years. Feels like this Colorado State team has figured some things out here in the last month.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely the hottest going in, but I the good thing is they actually have the easiest road in a way, right? But is that good for their ability? I mean, it's good for their ability, obviously, to win the conference tournament and get the automatic berth, but they don't have the same opportunities that Boise has right in front of them. I mean, let's look at it. You beat Nevada or Fresno State, big deal. Yeah, you hopefully, you get a shot at Utah State, but there's no guarantee Utah State beats UNLV if they play UNLV in that game. I could see UNLV winning that game at home. Um, so I just don't know if the same opportunities are there. I think this thing's wide open. I think the league's been wide open from start to finish this year, and that's kind of the beauty of it. But it's also the tough part, right? Like again, they're going to get a bunch of teams with not great seeds, and people are going to probably rip on them if they don't win in the first round of the tournament, and they just don't have that star power that some of these other leagues do. I love that last year they got in so many teams. This year, hopefully they get 4 in, but it could be 3, and you're looking at maybe none of them being a favorite.
And Rob, it's funny if I can jump in here real quick because you
Mhm.
mentioned Team of Destiny, and that's what I've thought for the last month about Boise State, to be honest, because Tyson Degenhardt has taken them to 3 straight tournaments. No one's ever taken them to 4 in a row. They've as everybody knows, they're 0-10 all time in the NCAA tournament. They've never won a game, and you would just seem like a Tyson Degenhardt's career. He's I think 42, 43 points. No, excuse me, 32. He's now 32 points away from being the all-time leading scorer. And so it's kind of felt like, at least to me, that this was a team that was okay. It's been an up and down year, but it just doesn't seem right for Tyson Degenhardt to flame out and not make the tournament as a senior. It doesn't feel right for Alvaro Cardenas, who has just been an unbelievable 1-year addition for Boise State and is everything that's right about college basketball on and off the court. Just been a tremendous leader in person. For a guy like Alvaro Cardenas to never play in the NCAA tournament just doesn't seem right. So I know fans in Boise and everybody that follows them, it has felt like, all right, maybe this is just, and that's why it's like, what, like they've played terrible in the tournament. They've lost twice to San Diego State, but like, maybe this is just the year anyway. It's not going to matter. They're just going to go down there and win this whole tournament whenever, because everyone's counted them out numerous times this year. They lost in Moby Arena. They were 13-7 on the season, and it was a rock bottom moment. They were 5-4 in the conference, and you're like, oh man, is this team like going to finish 500 in the league? What's going to happen? Then they win 9 out of 10. They lost the San Diego State game on the road. Everyone gave up again, and then they go on a 5-game winning streak, and then they lose to Colorado State, and it's same thing. Now you got to win the tournament. Now they're not going to get in. So we'll see what happens. They're certainly capable of losing to San Diego State, but I certainly think they're capable of going on a run here and maybe winning this whole thing. And it's just funny you use the word destiny because at multiple times this year I've said, you know what? It just seems like Boise State somehow, some way, if there's ever a Disney movie to be written, maybe it would have been with Max Rice last year, but I mean this year with Tyson, it just seems like it. So that's what people in Boise are holding their hope on, that there's some special magical run here, but certainly just as easy as they've already done twice this year. They could, lose to San Diego State and find themselves in the NIT or the Crown tournament as well.
I mean,
I would love to have Degenhardt in it.
yes.
Listen, as you say it, BJ, I love that kid. I love him for being loyal. When, let's face it, he could have went in the portal at any point, and we know he could have made probably double the money he's making right now. I hope they get in for him as much as anything. I really do. And even if they get in the playing game, Like to me, even if you sent to Dayton, there might be a better chance that they win that game in Dayton.
Boise's done that a few times, right?
Yeah.
They've been in Dayton what, 3 times?
Is
Leon
it
Rice
three?
would never be happier about going to Dayton than this year, no
Yeah.
doubt.
All right, Graham, I want to hit you on New Mexico. So
Yeah.
they won the league, outright regular season champs. I don't know if Donovan Dent ends up being the conference player of the year because I feel like the Neek might have made a little bit of a run there, but he is for the most part the probably the biggest name in the conference. You have the biggest name coach in the conference, and they have looked for the most part like the team that's going to be the biggest threat to make a run in March this season. What do you make of the Lobos? What do you make of their chances to make some noise here, not just in the Mountain West, but in the NCAA tournament as well?
So, I mean, obviously the bullet points, if you're talking and if they make the tournament, I assume they will. What the announcers are going to be telling everybody about this team is this is a team that lost Jalen House, who at the end of last year might have been playing the best in the Mountain West. He won the Mountain West tournament MVP when they won 4 games in 4 days. They lost Jamal Mashburn Jr., who's number 4 in the country in scoring right now, and they lost JT Toppin, who might just find his way onto an All-American list here in a week or two, and he'll be in the NBA in a couple months, right? They lose those 3 players for a moment in the offseason. John Tonji was committed for about 48 hours,
Yep.
and this team yet is much better than any of the previous teams that Richard Pitino had because it's just built better. It's constructed better. You're lined up at the 1 and the 5 with a fantastic point guard in Donovan Dent. You got Nelly Jr. Joseph, who kind of came into his own a little bit this year after last year. He didn't get to town from Nigeria until the day before their second exhibition game. It was late October that he arrived in the United States. He had no preseason, no summer. He had a visa issue that kept him in Nigeria till October. And he kind of took a back seat a little bit to JT Toppin's great freshman year. So all those pieces are gone. And then this year, all that happens is Donovan Dent becomes better than Jalen House was, becomes better than Jamal Mashburn Jr. was, and is one of the best pick and roll point guards that certainly that I've covered. And he and Nelly just got this chemistry going that they're playing pretty good. And I posted this over the weekend on social media after the San Diego State Nevada game wrapped up the regular season. If I had to point to one stat as to why New Mexico led this league wire to wire, they were in first place the entire year. It's because they are number 1 in defense in KenPom. It's not San Diego State. For the previous decade, New Mexico has never been ranked higher than 5th in defense. And this year, it's only by a decimal point. But if you want to see the biggest change in New Mexico Lobo basketball, it's that they're a better defense in conference play over 20 games than even the San Diego State Aztecs. So I'd say their defense is the main reason, but they also got a pretty special one in Donovan Dent.
Mhm. Point guard play will take you a long way, right, Jeff?
I have said that for a long, long time. And yeah, if you got a good 1 and a 5, and again, like you said, it was almost playing those guys together last year.
Yeah.
I think it's some teams are able to do it. I mean, Auburn's been able to do it this year with 2 bigs, but it's rare. It's rare that you can do it effectively in this day and age.
I think the bigger problem last year for the Lobos was playing 3 6'2" and shorter
That too.
guards, and they would have rather played a whole bunch of bigs if they could have. And now that they got a 6'9" wing as opposed to a 6'2" wing, and Philip Borovichinin, I really think that's the biggest change. I think he, for the first half against San Diego State and for the first half against Colorado State, shut down Miles Bird and shut down Nick Clifford. And both of those guys had single-digit scoring games against the Lobos. They both came on in the second half. Don't get me wrong; they still had good games, but you got a 6'9" wing defending you. It's a whole lot better than Jamal Mashburn Jr. at 6'2", trying to defend an opposing wing.
Hey, how many times did you have to practice pronouncing Philip's name?
I'll tell you what, man, I didn't know it was Borvich, like the hard E in the middle until midway through the season. And luckily, as a writer, you don't have to say it very often, but I actually had him on a podcast and he got me right. The two Serbians on the Lobos, such a blast, man. Jovan Milicevic is a freshman who's really come on late, and Filip Borovichinin is those two guys are funny, man. They're a blast, and the chemistry on this year's team. It wasn't that any of those guys that left were bad, but the chemistry on this year's team's better than I've covered in a long time.
Yep, that matters. I wanna hit all you guys. BJ, I'll go to you first on this one. The only team we haven't really talked about at the top of the conference yet is Utah State. They lost two of their last three and three of their last six. But Ian Martinez and Mason Foulslev is as good of a 1-2 punch as you're going to find in this league. They play that like weird 1-1-3, 2-3 match, whatever you want to phrase it, that weird zone that seems to mess teams up that aren't accustomed to it. But I don't know. My take is that the second time around, once you kind of have seen it before, it's a little bit easier to know what to do against it, which is why I don't know if they're going to make noise in the Mountain West tournament, but I think they're a sneaky, going to give somebody some trouble team in the NCAA tournament. BJ,
Yeah, I mean,
what's
a
your take
couple
on
things.
Utah?
Couple of things I'd say on that is you look at the last three losses they had down the stretch. They lost at New Mexico, at Boise, at Colorado State, where almost every team in the league lost every time they had to go there. So I mean, it's just really hard to win in this league. And they don't have a big inside presence. I mean, they're obviously guard heavy, and they don't have they just don't get a ton of production on the interior or have a ton of length. And in terms of some of the matchups in this league, whether it's a San Diego State with a Guath or New Mexico with what they have down there, as Jeff's been saying. So I think they're a very good team. I mean, me and Geoff were both on the panel that voted for the All Mountain West awards this year, and I mean, Jared Calhoun got serious consideration from me for Coach of the Year. I mean, to finish third in this league with what he's done and the rotating door they've had at coaches there at Utah State, and I know he kept a couple key guys. But some of the guys he brought in and just the way that team has played, I've been super impressed with them. And they are a team, as I said, guard heavy. They're going to have to hit some shots. But I mean, Martinez and Foslov are two of the best guards in this conference, and I'm very intrigued to kind of follow them and see what they do here moving forward. Because again, if they face a team in the tournament where is real big and a big threat down in the paint, that could be a problem for them, in my opinion. But great guards, which everyone says you got to have in March, and veteran guards, and Calhoun deserves a ton of credit there because they've had a heck of a season, and I don't think I get it. Yeah, they lost a couple at Boise and at Colorado State, but then they go crush Air Force by 40. I still don't think they're a team that whoever has to play in the Mountain West tournament's feeling great about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of hit it up, when you set it up, you kind of teed it up just right, Rob, in that matchup zone snuck up on a lot of people. I think that was the biggest thing for a while. The Lobos were able to get them in Logan by 19 on their first matchup, but the first half they were taken out of it completely. They were able to kind of figure some things out just in the second half. You saw one adjustment that the coaching staff made that really just turned that game around. And I think that defense is sneaky good. It didn't end up rated very high in the conference at the end of the season, just because I think, like you said, the second go around they got beat up on, and that Colorado State 40-point win is gonna hurt some metrics quite a bit. I would say, as far as players go, the stars are the stars. Ian and Mason are their two stars, but in my mind, they really started. Dayton Albury, the point guard, started playing really good late in the season, and he was a guy that kind of gave the Lobos some fits. He was blown by I think Donovan a little bit sometimes, and he was getting by True Washington a little bit. Two pretty good defensive guards, and I just think that one of their biggest feathers in their cap is their bench scoring. They're ranked 26th in the country. I just looked it up, and 28 points off the bench every game. They're deeper than really any team in the league. They use their bench more. I don't know if that necessarily always means you're deeper, but they do use their bench more than any team in the league.
All right, I need everyone on this podcast right now. You got to pick someone that plays on day one to be able to make it to at least the semifinals. Goodman, I'll go to you first, then you go BJ, then Graham, or you go next. Give me someone.
I'm going to go. UNLV is the easy one, right? I mean, that's the easy one. Kevin's obviously got some pressure on them. They're at home. They've got a terrific point guard. I don't know. I mean, again, I just look at it and kind of say some of these other teams, I don't really see it happening. Maybe Nevada, but I'll go UNLV for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious one with how they're playing right now. And obviously everyone talks about them playing at home. I know that hasn't proven to be a big deal in the conference tournament down there, but they are playing well and they're at home. But I mean, if I have to pick somebody else, sorry, Geoff, but I'll take Nevada. I mean, I do think with Kobe Sanders, and I saw him go for 30 against Boise, a couple weeks ago. I mean, that guy can really light it up when he gets going. Nick Davidson is still one of the best players in this conference, and Xavier Dussel, one of the all-time Mountain West three-point, leader, could get hot as well. So I know Nevada's had a very disappointing season. I think they went 0-9 or 0-10 against the top, 5 teams in the league in the regular season, but a lot of those were close games, and maybe they're checked out and they're done, whatever. But I saw, that they're trying to get into one of these postseason tournaments. They're still trying to fight to play here, and Nevada is certainly a team that has some guys that I think if they were to get hot, they could be a little bit of a scary matchup as well.
So the day one, that's 6-7, and I'll go. I mean, look, I cover the Lobos, but they're 12-0 against the bottom half of the bracket. Against their half of the bracket, they're 5-3 this year. They split with San Jose State, the 8 seed. They lost at San Jose State, who had a lot of close games. And against Wyoming, they were down double digits both times they played Wyoming. So, like, as far as the 1 seed goes, they're actually getting a really rough 8-9 winner out of that. And I'd say both of those teams have a little bit of a chance. Now, the path for the 8-9 guys is horrible because they play the 1 seed. Then they were either going to play a San Diego State or a Boise State trying to get in the NCAA tournament. But San Jose State and Tim Miles played a lot of teams really close this year. And Obi Ogben for Wyoming, like when he gets in a little bit of a groove, and he's done it late in games quite a bit, there's nobody stopping his step back three. And Sundance Wicks has enough energy to keep the Thomas and Mack lights on himself, and I'd say either one of those 8-9 teams, especially since Nevada and UNLV are already off the board. I'd say either one of the 8-9s could make a little bit of a run.
Yeah, hey, Rob, not to take this thing over, Rob, but can I ask Goodman a quick question? I'm curious on the over/under of new coaches in the Mountain West next year, because we're talking about these teams, and I'm looking. Fresno, I don't know what's going on there with Vance, just with the gambling thing and the year that they had. We've talked about what could happen at UNLV with Kruger. Who knows if another coach leaves on the positive side to take a better job? I mean, I don't know if that was a bad
over 3
show, but what do you think about the coaching carousel here?
If you give me the over under 3, like I think it's going to be 3 at the end. I think there'll be 3 new coaches and maybe 4. Because I think there's something else that you didn't mention. I don't want to say. I hate doing the speculation game, but I think there's one more here that could happen.
Well, I mean, it's open in Albuquerque. I mean, if Richard Pitino,
I didn't even go through that. Yeah, I wasn't even talking about
the Richard Pitino one. Yeah, right. It's open. Everybody here knows that, and he's been remarkably open and candid about it. He tells Lobo fans, "Look, I love you guys. I hope they give a commitment to this program." But yeah, I mean, I'm talking to teams. He's been open for 3 years about it, and he was in a situation.
You got a good guy to cover. Listen, you both have really good guys to cover. Richard is just incredibly at this point in his career too.
He's so comfortable.
Incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's so comfortable in his own skin right now, and he doesn't. He can't do a whole lot wrong with what he says at pressers. Fans love him. He's basically telling Lobo fans, yeah, I'm talking to other schools, and they're like, but how he said it was so great. I mean, he's kind of hitting a sweet spot with the fan base here right now. And I'll tell you who runs Albuquerque right now. It's not Richard Pitino, it's Jack Pitino. His 10-year-old son, the ball boy. I am not kidding you when I tell you the ovations he gets in the pit when he's shooting threes at halftime. He's running this whole town right now.
Hey, not a bad life for a 10-year-old. All right, guys, now's the time. I need official picks and predictions. Give me your Mountain West Tournament title game and who you have winning it all. Grammer, you go first, and you, BJ, then you, Goodman, and then I'll close it up.
I'll ride the Colorado State hot streak to the championship game. The thing about momentum is that when it ends, it usually ends like really quick and kind of bad. Like Colorado State to the championship game. You know what? They don't have Jalen House, but I'll take New Mexico and the 7,000 or 8,000 fans that they're going to have going to Vegas. I think it'll be a chalk 1-2 championship game, and I'll go Homer. I'll take New Mexico.
BJ,
I mean, it's hard to go against New Mexico with what they've done, and they're probably having the Coach of the Year, Player of the Year, and the record they had against the other top teams in the league. Yeah, I mean, I think they swept Colorado State and Utah State, right, Jeff?
Correct.
And so, and obviously beat Boise State. So I'll ride the New Mexico to the championship as well, but I'll take Utah State. I mean, Colorado State's very hot; they're getting a lot of love, but I mean, if they're down 9 to Boise midway through the second half. If they lose that game, they're the 5 seed or whatever in this tournament. So, I mean, they're playing very well. I get it, but I'll take Utah State to beat them in the semifinals. They've got some good guards, and I know they haven't played great, but Utah State's been one of the best teams in the league all year. And so I mean, I think Colorado State could very easily do it, but just to play contrarian, I'll take Utah State, New Mexico in the finals, and I think New Mexico goes regular season, postseason as well. I think that I do think Boise State beats San Diego State, by the way, if you want to call me a homer for that as well. But I saw some title odds, and they had Boise State as way better favorites than San Diego State. So Vegas might know something about Geoff that we don't know in terms of him not playing. And if Geoff doesn't play, I think Boise State wins that game because, like I said, every time Boise State's counted out, they've come back and played very well. I think that's a very, very close game. New Mexico and Boise wouldn't surprise me at all if Boise State does win and get to the championship. But I think I'll take the regular season favorite New Mexico to beat Utah State in the championship.
All right, I'm going with the game I want. All right, the game I want is honestly, I mean, if you give me anything, it's Boise, Colorado State. That's what I want because then I think you have a chance here of getting 4 or 5. I mean, if it goes perfectly, and I think that's what Colorado State beating Boise in the title
Boise's
game.
Boise's got to beat New Mexico. That's
Right.
exactly what I was going to say. Let's speak it into existence.
Yeah, I mean,
at Mountain West, Boise beat San Diego State. They beat New Mexico. Colorado State gets past Utah State and then beats Boise for the automatic bid. You got a 5-bid Mountain West right there.
Why don't the coaches just talk about this? I mean, then Richard
Big
gets
collusion,
off the 8-9 game.
Big collusion. Come on,
right?
Let's go.
Get Richard off the 8-9 game because you don't want to be there. Where he is right now is the worst possible place, which is probably right on that 8-9 line. So you got to get off that, and that means losing early. You get some more rest. Richard can drink some more wine, whatever it is, and he'll be fine. And then you get Leon happy. He gets the title game. They're in. Tyson Degenhart gets in, and Colorado State gets again. I don't think it's going to break that way, but it's not impossible. I mean, again,
Jeff, if LeVar Ball taught you anything, you got to speak it into existence.
Can't drop LeVar Ball's name on this podcast. Can we just strike that?
I just did.
I will say this, I would be shocked if the Mountain West got 5 teams. I know it'd be fun to talk about, but I will say the thing that no one's talking about, and the Mountain West not getting all this respect. I believe 5 of the 12 committee members are new this year, and I think there's 5 new committee members. So I don't think it's a given that the Mountain West is going to just get the same lack of respect that it got last year when you have almost a half new committee on this. So I'm not expecting the Mountain West to get a lot of love. They typically don't. Boise State has gone to Dayton twice when they probably shouldn't have had to go to Dayton. Should have been higher than that, especially last year. So I get it. The Mountain West typically does get jobbed in a lot of this, but I think it is a real talking point that almost half this committee is new. We don't know their thoughts on this. And maybe the Mountain West does get the benefit of the doubt this year.
I'll say too, for the first, I just saw this stat earlier today. For the first 22 years of Mountain West existence, the Mountain West got 4 or more teams in 3 times. They've gotten 4 or more teams in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So 22 years, it took them first 22 years to get 3 of that to happen. And then the last 3, it's happened every year. The Mountain West isn't getting as disrespected. The seeding is, but they're actually sneaking a bunch of teams in. And it's because it's a league with some pretty good coaches right now, I think. Any one of those top 5s can probably pull this thing off this week. And I think it's because these coaches have kind of figured out how to work this right outside the power structure kind of thing pretty well.
I hope you're right. Gentlemen, it's been great catching up. Grammer, good to see you. BJ, great to see you. Goodman, this was, I think, our 5th or 6th recording of the day. And
hey, BJ, over 4. I've changed my mind on your question. I'm going over 4.
So that means you probably have 2 leaving for better jobs.
I mean, yeah, definitely one. Definitely one leaving for better jobs, and one more that, again, to be determined that I'm Yeah, I can't say much
Sending you a
about it.
text here after the show to get some more info on that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
3.5. You're going over. Let's give it the hook. So over under 3.5.
3.5, definitely going over.
All right,
Going
there
over.
you go.